Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Whenever We Feel Like It in Travel. My name is Gary Arndt, coming to you once again from my mom's basement here in Wisconsin after a very nice week in the Florida Keys, the state of Texas, and San Diego, California. Once again, is the man so nice they named him twice, Mr. Chris Christensen. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm fighting a cold, so I will occasionally put us on mute and go cough my head off. But other than that, pretty good.
And you were, I just heard, a guest on one of the top and up-and-coming travel podcasts in the world.
Yeah, the Global Travel Conspiracy with Gary Arndt. I was guest number 3. So
That's true.
Was,
and you hold
I believe,
the record.
the highlight of my travel podcasting career so far.
It's all downhill from here. And you hold the record for the most appearances on my show.
I heard it was tied.
Yeah, so you got that going for you. Jen is not with us today. I don't know why. She's slacking, as far as I know. Probably goofing around, having some sort of Ferris Bueller type adventures around Carlsbad, California. That's what I have to make up with the data I got. So, actually, I met Jen in person. We had lunch this week in Carlsbad. That's where I was staying. So at least I got to talk to her then. But thankfully, we got the equivalent of 2 Jens for our guest. Sherry Ott, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
And where are you coming to us from today?
From my friend's apartment in New York City.
New York City? Well, they make the best salsa, I've been told.
Yes, and hot dogs.
We're going to be talking to you a little bit later about a project that you've been doing the last couple of years and had your recent installment of it this year, but let's talk about a couple of news stories first. We complain a lot about airlines on the show, and for good reason, and we shall do so today. But here's kind of one uplifting story. I don't know if it's uplifting, but at least it's nice to hear. United Airlines has a bounty program for programmers who catch bugs in their software. And one guy actually found one, and United gave him 1 million miles. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I would say so. Makes me kind of want to go back into QA.
Yeah, no, I think this
Worth
is
it.
brilliant on their point of view because it doesn't cost them that much to give somebody 1 million miles, and it's great PR, and it encourages other people to fix the bugs in their system. It's a smart move for a company, and I was pleased that there was an airline that was smart enough to do it.
The cash equivalent that I've always been told that a mile has is roughly about 1 to 2 cents.
Yeah,
This would be around maybe like $150,000 worth, of value.
It's not bad.
Wouldn't that be $10,000 if it's just 1 cent?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
My degree in math did nothing for me. Actually, the article says it has a cash value of $25,000.
Okay, so they're using 2.5 cents per mile.
Yeah. I also literally just woke up. I looked at my my iPhone when I woke up and it said 7:30. I'm like, I got 3 hours before the show starts. I went back to bed, and then when I looked at it again, it was like 10:15. I was like, oh crap! Now I got to get up and do this. So
do math.
That's my excuse. Going back to complaining about the airlines, this is from the Mirror in the UK. A 14-year-old girl was denied access to a flight to the Maldives because she was, quote, too pale to board the flight. Now, Sherry, have you suffered from chronic paleness?
Sometimes.
Have you seen the ads for the new pharmaceutical drug Palazine to fight those who suffer from paleness? Now, she's a redhead. The pictures of her, I guess she's as, pale as any redhead, but she doesn't particularly look like a ghost or anything.
No.
The best part about this article is they got a letter from her doctor, and the letter simply says, "Dear Sir or Madame, I know of no reason why this patient should not fly." That's the whole letter.
Did they end up leaving her on?
I love the article. The headline in the article in the Mirror was "Too Ginger to Fly."
Yeah, I think the ultimate, but it's just such a bizarre thing.
So they thought that she was just sick, and she
And it was an
couldn't board
Etihad
the
flight,
plane.
and then they said, well, we were concerned with the well-being of a young passenger on a lengthy flight. I mean, she's 14.
And she was
It's
with her
not,
parents.
She was
yeah,
with her
I
parents.
mean, it's not as if no one under the age of 14 has never flown on an Etihad flight before or has never flown halfway around the world.
Well,
Um,
they are a growing airline. A lot is an amazing amount of traffic now going through the Middle East with those airlines, with Etihad and with what's the other one?
Emirates,
Emirates.
Qatar.
And so it's a newer thing for them, and they're probably just moving into England, and they're just not used to all these pasty people. So it's a learning experience.
Well, I think dealing with pale redheaded people is something you're going to have to deal with if you're going to deal with like the UK and Northern Europe.
Right.
They're not an unheard of group.
Gosh, I wonder what they do if like someone actually gets sick on the flight. Is it like a pure panic? Do they land the plane? I mean,
I don't know. The article suggested something that it may have had something to do with the flight being full, and they were looking for excuses to boot people. But yeah, it just seems very strange.
She's no paler than my wife is. So
Another
whose origins are also the islands up there.
a great story of airlines acting like douchebags comes from Yahoo Travel, and someone left their laptop in the seat pocket of the plane.
Oh, gee.
So they call up the airport, and they charged them a 20-pound fee. So this took place in Scotland. Again, they hate the redheads. To get 20 pounds is about $30 to get the laptop back.
okay, this one didn't surprise me because I just paid money to get my Kindle back that I lost from United.
Really?
Mhm.
I don't know.
It
That
was,
just
it was a shipment fee, but I'm sure there was also fees associated with whatever administrivia they had to do to find it, contact me, etc.
Shipping fee, I understand. I mean that one's I left a jacket in the TSA in Boston and didn't want to go back and be delayed for my flight, so I found that they would ship it to me, and I paid for the FedEx. I mean, that's sort of the cost of being stupid in my case. But the administrative fee seems, well, it seems, for one thing, it's just a lost opportunity in PR. I don't know if you've seen the video that KLM is doing about the dog that finds lost things on airplanes and then reunites them with their owners, and supposedly they're really doing it. And I didn't put this link in there because I didn't stumble across it online. They put the item, like the lost toy, the stuffed animal, in the little pouch that the dog is wearing, and they show video of the dog coming up to the child who now is reunited. It's this beautiful, wonderful PR moment, probably fake, but still wonderful. This is not that moment.
yeah. What you don't see is that the dog actually has a little credit card swiping thing that you have to use to get the toy back.
Maybe that's the person who walks up behind them and says, "Okay, that was, now that we've got the video, it'll be $5 for your daughter's toy." So.
And speaking of fees, so EasyJet is one of the discount carriers in Europe, and this guy James McElvar from Scotland again. They got a thing for the Scottish. I think this is punishment for their attempts at becoming independent. Who's a member of a boy band. So he put.
Okay, see, I lost all sympathy right there. But
he put 12 layers of clothing on before his EasyJet flight, so he didn't have to pay a fee for having a bag. Okay, fair enough, a bit ridiculous, but whatever. He passes out on the flight because he's wearing so much clothes. I don't know. I think what his end cost of this had to be a hell of a lot more than whatever the bag would have been.
Paramedics meeting him at the end. Yeah.
I loved the picture of him, probably in his apartment. I assume it's him. He's wearing so many clothes that he's kind of standing rigidly. I just had this picture of him walking onto the plane, with 12 layers of clothes on, just kind of moving in a very constricted fashion, and just thought it was hilarious that somebody actually tried this, and I love that the article here from the Metro had the old picture of Joey from Friends trying to wear all of Chandler's clothes. I mean, it's a wonderful callback here, and the thought of somebody actually trying this and passing out. I'm sorry, it's only funny until somebody gets hurt, and then it's hilarious.
How did he get through security?
There's no rules against that.
Yeah, but don't you have to take off the coat or extra layers and your shoes?
They make you take off your outerwear.
I still would have liked to see the video of that.
Well, how can you tell whether he's wearing a lot of clothes or he's just fat?
He doesn't even look fat in the photo. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell by this photo that he would be wearing that many layers of clothes.
He was wearing 6 T-shirts, 4 jumpers, 3 pairs of jeans, 2 pairs of jogging bottoms, 2 jackets, and 2 hats.
Wow, 2 pairs of jeans? That makes me want to pass out right now.
And I just want to say, this boy band must not be doing that well. One, if they're flying EasyJet, and 2, if the guy has to put on this much clothes to save, having to pay for a bag. So, Scottish ladies, perhaps this 14-year-old girl who didn't get to fly, maybe she should become a fan, and she could do something instead of, not flying because she's too pale, could help out the boy band and allow them to get check their bag. Another airline, this could be This Week in Airlines. Virgin is be getting a brand new Wi-Fi on their planes. This is for the A320s, and the reason I really bring this up is because this week I took a flight, and normally go-go internet that I've seen on flights has tended to be around, it was like $5 to $7 to pay for internet for the flight.
Oh, not recently.
No, it's $27 to pay for internet now on a flight.
Well, I think 27 is the day pass.
Nope, this was the one flight. The day pass.
Oh, seriously?
Was 37.
Oh, I've never seen it that high.
Looking at the screenshot right now that I took while I was on the flight, a 30-minute pass was $750.
Okay, which airline was that?
Delta.
Huh.
Insane.
I haven't seen it for more than 15 on other flights, and that's recently. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so the price has gone up a ton. Several fold over what it used to be, and I don't know if it was the fact that they just wanted to get people used to using it, or if they've had some business problems and the cost went up, or they're just trying to make more money on Delta. I'm not really sure.
That's weird. I just flew United, and it was only, I think it was $4. It was $4 an hour now that I think about it. It was only a couple-hour flight.
In United, it's their own Wi-Fi now, and I don't remember what theirs was, but it was too much. I didn't use it.
Well, anyways, this new Virgin America one, it's satellite, and it claims to offer, and I think this has to be wrong, it's saying 140 gigabits a second.
Wow.
140 megabits sounds better, because it says 8 to 10 times faster than existing in-flight Wi-Fi, and there's no way that current in-flight Wi-Fi is 14 gigabits a second. So I'm thinking that that's probably a typo, but still, 140 megs is not shabby. But when you consider that it's being divided amongst an entire plane, that obviously brings it down a little bit.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that they use the fees basically. It could just be that it got too popular, and you use the fees basically because you could only make so much money on the Wi-Fi, because if everybody on the plane uses it, it's ridiculously slow. So at some point you have to keep raising the fees if more people use it so that it's usable.
And that could be, I mean, they could be doing like peak traffic type things where flights to like San Francisco or Austin are priced higher because people are more apt to use it, whereas flights from Des Moines to Kansas City or something would be less. I don't know.
Could be, but I mean, you just described the city that I'm flying into half the time is San Francisco, and I've never seen it that high. And I say half the time because the other time I'm flying out of San Francisco. So.
I know, and speaking of Wi-Fi, I think I was at TBEX last year, and I was talking to a representative from Royal Caribbean, and they said that their new ships were going to have like some crazy several hundred megabit, I think 500 megabits a second Wi-Fi on board. So it's really interesting that if more ships and more flights can get this real serious bandwidth, what's going to be able to happen. I think that really changes the game in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about that, I think, on this show about when I was on the South America cruise this year with Holland America, and we would go on a shore excursion, and you'd be sitting in a restaurant with a group of people from the ship, and someone would say, "There's Wi-Fi!" And just all conversation would stop because people were so backed up with checking email and Facebook and everything. Basically, they were so starved for connections. I
think it's going to be interesting going forward. I think more and more people are demanding it, even if you pay for it, having something that's quality. I don't know if you remember. Maybe you remember, Chris. Sherry might too. Back in like the late '90s, there was a company that was started by Craig McCaw and Bill Gates called Teledesic. What they wanted to do was put a network of low Earth orbit satellites that would fly around the Earth, and you could get internet off the satellites. And the way it would work is because it's in low Earth orbit, you'd only have a satellite over your head every maybe 15 minutes before the next one comes in place. But they would the trick is that the satellites would communicate with each other as they're flying. So they're in polar orbit, constantly moving around. So it'd be quite a challenge. They eventually nixed the idea. The company never got off the ground. But I always thought it was a neat idea.
Well, you know that Google is it Google, I think, that's doing that thing with the drones. With the drones who stay up in, they're looking at basically doing this for third world countries, places that have limited access to internet, basically having drones that stay up for, I think it's weeks or months, and are Wi-Fi platforms.
Yeah, but that would work for like a city, but for like the whole world, you would need to have something satellite-based. And these satellite solutions
they're talking about just not 2 drones, but just thousands of drones circling the Earth constantly.
Yeah, I still don't know if that would do anything for or why they would do it for, a remote area or someplace that's just nothing but wilderness.
Well, wilderness, yeah, they're probably going to choose populated areas, yeah.
Anyways,
but it's relatively cheap to launch a drone versus launching something into orbit.
But it's not as cool. One more final news story, because it wouldn't be This Week in Travel unless we somehow found a reason to complain about the TSA.
I got this one for you, Gary.
Thank you. So, guy goes through an airport with $75,000 in cash in a bag. Now, you can debate the merits of going through an airport with $75,000 in cash.
Can I please?
Well, the thing is, if you have a large amount of cash, the police can just take it. And there's tons of cases, of seizure, and because they can say, well, if you have a large amount of money, that's probably used in drugs, and so we're going to take it. And then they never have to actually, accuse you of a crime. There's tons of cases all around the country of police confiscating money, basically just stealing it, and that's it. So carrying a large amount of cash just is not wise. But that aside, guy goes through airport security with $75,000 in a bag. Someone at TSA takes a picture of the open bag with all the cash inside, tweets it, saying what airport the guy was at and when the guy was at going through with $75,000 in cash. Compounding a dumb decision and making it even worse.
Now, to be fair, I didn't see anything that would help me identify which bag had $75,000 in cash. It's not the outside of the bag where the person's face.
Yes,
or whatever,
there is.
but, yeah.
There's in the
I thought
tweet,
you
there's a
could see
picture
it.
of the outside of a bag.
I've seen the inside of the bag.
No, look at the outside. There's that little geometric design on the outside of the bag. Scroll down to the actual tweet, or it's in the top, actually. It's the top photo. Which, if you're listening on audio, this doesn't help you in a bit. But, yeah, you can see the... anyways...
I think that's the inner liner of the bag. The geometric design.
It's the outer side of the bag, because there's like another bag next to it that has the same design, I think.
No. That's the other. They've opened it up. This is the inner liner of the bag. It's a black bag, not a geometric shape.
Either way,
it's
why is the TSA tweeting anything about what comes through security?
It does seem like there ought to be a policy against that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't want to
perhaps
take
there
pictures
already
of
is a policy against that.
But anyways, we are not here to talk about the TSA. We're not here to talk about airlines. We're here to talk to Shariat, who has just finished her latest installment of the Nice Project. Why don't you tell us what the Nice Project is and how it got started and why you're doing it?
Goodness. It is, well, I started it about 4 years ago, and it's basically, I have 6 nieces, no nephews, so I'm not being partial to nieces, but I have 6 nieces, no children of my own, and I was really sick of trying to find them gifts all the time, like stuff. And, you know, just stuff they really don't need. They get everything they need for the most part. And I decided I'm no longer going to get them gifts for their birthdays or Christmas or whatever, graduations. And instead, what I wanted to do was give them the gift of travel. Because when I was growing up, I didn't really travel that much, at least outside of the U.S. I didn't even have a passport until I was 30. So I wanted to kind of return to this idea of like giving them access to travel in the world and to kind of be a mentor in a way, I suppose, and really have them experience something as opposed to get something, as opposed to more stuff. So I just decided that when they turned 16, they could choose anywhere in the world they wanted to go, and I would take them. The idea was supposed to be for a week or so. And so that's what I've been doing. Each one of them I just went on my 4th Nice project, and I documented on my website and so on. But I have 2 more to go, and each one picks a different destination or, you know, picks wherever they want to go, and we arrange it.
And Sherry, we've got a kind of a weird noise coming from you. Could I get you to try unplugging your headset, and let's just see if that goes away? It's an electronic noise.
Better?
No, but at least we tried. Okay. my apologies.
That's okay. I don't know. Maybe it's my computer. I hear the fan running.
So this was the, and sorry, I was distracted by the noise. You have done how many of the 6?
4. This was the 4th one.
And you've been to, I know, Peru, and I don't remember where else.
The first niece chose Europe, so she went to Italy. The second niece chose Vietnam. The third one chose Peru, and this one chose Belize. So we're hitting like every continent. The last 2 are feeling a lot of pressure to choose different continents, but I told them, like, you can choose whatever you want. The choice is theirs.
So you're looking at Australia and Africa next, maybe, or maybe Antarctica?
And they are thinking about it, so who knows? But I don't care. They can go wherever they want. They can go to Disney World if they really want. The idea is to get them out and travel and to spend time with them. So for me, too, there's this, in addition to, you know, obviously kind of mentoring them in travel and introducing them to the world, and hopefully building a little bit of wanderlust in them, there's also the benefit of me, you know, really kind of establishing a relationship with them, too, more so. And that's the important thing for me, because as a single woman without kids, that's something that, you know, I want to do.
So when you're in the old folks' home, you need someone to come by, and you're basically putting a deposit down on that now.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's smart because I should be doing that. Except my niece and nephew have absolutely no desire to go anywhere. So,
Or is it that they don't have a desire to go with you, Gary?
well, considering they've never gone anywhere, and one of them is now she's 19 or 20. I'm not even sure. Yeah, they've. I don't know if they've left the state. So.
Oh, no. Well, it's interesting because out of my 6 nieces, so it breaks down into I've got a brother and sister, and each of them have 3 girls. And so, it's my sister's oldest and then my brother's oldest, and, just one right after the other. And my sister's family is actually quite well traveled. They were expats in Singapore. None of them have ever traveled outside of the country, nor have they traveled very much at all. So it's 2 completely different experiences for me because one is completely new, first time out of the country, first passport, etc. And then the other is kind of, they're pretty well traveled, been there, done that. So it's for me too. And this one
so which of those is easier? Is it easier to have the well-traveled but harder to impress, or is it easier to have the this is all new but I don't know what I'm doing?
That's a hard question. I prefer to take my brother's kids who haven't traveled before, mainly because I just like the whole process of having them go experience jet lag and go through customs and all that kind of stuff.
You get to see it for the first time.
Yeah.
The first experience, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun for me because it also brings up a lot of memories for me of what it was like for me to go for the first time, and which wasn't that long ago. So, but each holds its different challenges, certainly.
So, of the 2 remaining nieces, have they given you any indication of what they want to do? And when will they be going?
I'll have one probably next summer, and the last one will be maybe 2 years after that. There's a little bit of a gap there for age 16 because they, like I said, I won't even consider it until they're 16. So they have talked about where they may want to go. One of them wanted to go to, the next one was really interested in Australia and New Zealand, but the problem is I had to remind them that the other hemisphere, so if you want to go in the summer when you're off school, it's going to be the winter there. So that kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in it. So we'll see. And then the last one, the youngest, is back in my brother's family, who's never been. A big decision for her. And she's feeling pressure to make sure that she goes where no one else has gone before and to choose this last continent. And I told her she doesn't need to. She can do whatever she wants. But it's interesting because all of them there begins to be this little bit of peer pressure within them too, on where they're going and trying to outdo each other.
Yeah.
You should. Are they from the Midwest as well?
Yes. So yeah, my brother's family.
Wisconsin is what she ought to pitch them.
Well, no, I think you should tell them that winter in Australia and New Zealand is not really winter.
Well,
no,
yeah.
That's true.
I mean, it's still going to be warmer than where they're from. And also, if you go to northern Australia or Kakadu or something, it's summer. I mean, it's warm.
Well, with New Zealand, I've been to the North Island in winter, and it's like California in winter. It's very similar, but I didn't end up going to the South Island because a lot of the things that I would wanted to see were closed.
Okay. Well, and maybe we stick to Australia. I mean, it'll be up to her. I'll give her a little bit of guidance, but it's up to her. And that's one of the reasons why I also choose 16 is I don't want to be the one making the decisions. It's theirs to make, and I don't even remind them really too much. They've got to show initiative, otherwise I'm not going to mess with it. I mean, they've got to show the initiative that they want to go and do it and choose a time and that type of stuff.
Now let's put the nieces aside for a second. You got a very interesting trip coming up, and I am very, very jealous of you.
Well, this is interesting.
Yeah. You're going to be going to an island that very few people ever visit, and most probably don't even know exist. Why don't you tell us about that?
I'm very excited. This week, I leave for basically eastern Siberia, Russia, and I hop on an icebreaker boat without internet and I head up to an island called Wrangel Island, which is above the Arctic Circle, and it's basically north of Russia, but it is part of Russia. Um, and I'm going to be on the boat for 2 weeks, and Wrangel Island is a protected area, but it is known for it's the largest denning of polar bears and walruses. So a lot of wildlife. There are some people living there, so that should be really interesting. So yeah, and then so you basically kind of cruise around the island, make stops on the island every day, obviously, walk around, hike around, and then come back down the coast of Siberia and stop along the way in different communities.
I don't know if you've read about the history of Wrangel Island, but the United States actually used to claim it as its territory.
Yeah,
And,
you're right.
yeah, we were there before the Russians, believe it or not. But when the 20th century happened and the Cold War kind of broke out, it just wasn't worth it. So it's Russian.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, I think. And you're right, most about it. I didn't know much about it until I started working with this company and looking into it. But it is like a photographer's, wildlife photographer's dream, certainly. So I'm excited. Plus, it'll be my first trip above the Arctic Circle.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Have you done? What this actually reminds me of is it's the northern equivalent of South Georgia Island, which is just above Antarctica, and it's kind of a penguin breeding area, and dubious claims by the Argentines, the British, just who owns it. This is kind of be as close as what you'd get, I think, into the Arctic. Have you done a lot of wildlife photography in the past?
No. So this is going to be a learning experience for me. I'm supposed to be trying out a new lens. It hasn't shipped here yet, but hopefully it'll arrive.
Well, I know you did wild horses in Mongolia.
Well, yeah. But no, I mean, my biggest lens that I normally carry is a 70 to 300, so it's certainly not, like professional wildlife type stuff. So this is going to be really different for me, but I can't wait. Can't wait to try it. See bears. I've never seen a bear before.
Oh, really?
I've tried a number of times, but for some reason, they just don't show up for me.
What lens are you bringing?
What I'm supposed to be getting is the Sigma 50 to 500, so it's like massive range. So it'll be interesting. I'll bring a tripod. We'll see how it does.
Yeah, I photographed polar bears in northern Manitoba several years ago, and I just had a 200 millimeter, and I felt that wasn't enough. I really wish I had something greater. So I think having something 500 millimeter, and there was a woman on the trip that had the exact same lens, the 50 to 500.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Do you have a monopod for it?
No, I just have a tripod.
A monopod is just helpful that if you're out walking around, you can just set up and kind of hold it still if you're in the middle of the day or something.
Well, the beautiful thing is I'm in New York, so I may be doing some shopping yet before I go.
Trip to B&H.
On this trip that I was on in Alaska recently, we saw bears a couple different times from the boat to the shore, and I had a 200 millimeter, and it, I longed for something greater. So.
Oops, I lost you guys for a second. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. We were talking about you.
Oh, great. But yeah, so yeah, Gary, this should be on your travel list. We'll see how it goes.
I would love to get there one day. Actually, I've never even been to Russia. And yeah, so I have this brand new website, and on the cover of the website is a map of the world. And the problem is, I've been to so many places that are just tiny. Like, I've been to like all the countries in the Pacific and in the Caribbean and the microstates of Europe. None of them even show up on the map. And then there's like Russia, Mongolia, China, Kazakhstan that I haven't been to. And so it looks like I haven't been anywhere.
Wow.
It does. That was really a surprise to me to look at your map and go, wow, there's really a lot of places in the world that Gary hasn't been.
So, yeah, I think 2016 will be the year of filling in the map.
The year of big,
I'm just going to go to large countries. That's it. I'm going to go to those countries in Brazil.
Nice. Well, I've been to Russia before, but I've not ever been to any of the traditional spots in Russia, is what I would say. I went through Russia when I did the Mongol rally, so we drove through the southern part and then the part that kind of, I guess it would be the eastern part that connects with Mongolia. But I've not been to, you know, Moscow or anywhere else. So I'm just doing obscure Russia.
That's not bad. It's a big place. A lot to explore. Other than that, any other travels coming up?
Yeah, that kicks off. I actually leave for that trip via Alaska. So when I come back, I'm going to spend about 3 weeks in Alaska trying to also get to some of the more obscure places there, too. So spending some time in Nome, which will be interesting. And then Fairbanks, Seward, a bunch of other kind of off-the-grid places. So very much looking forward to that. Hopefully going to even do some mail delivery. So via plane to remote communities. So we'll see. And then quick hop down to San Francisco and then over to China. So I'm hitting US, Russia, and China all within the next month and a half.
You will have a very full map.
Yes, they're big.
I think that should be like a greeting for travelers. May your map always be full.
Yeah.
Well, if there's nothing else, you want to start going on to our picks of the week?
Sure.
As Chris realizes we need a pick of the week.
What? Do we have to do that every week?
No one told me about a pick of the week.
Well, you got a couple minutes to think of something, and it can be
anything. We've been doing the show for 6 years. We've always done the pick of the week, Sherry. So.
Oh. Goodness. We'll have to think about this.
Okay, I've got mine.
I'll go first, because so when I started doing my new podcast with CBS, they gave me a box full of podcasting stuff. And it was literally a box full of podcasting stuff. And one of the things they gave me was, so if you're looking at it on video, is this Zoom recorder. This is the Zoom H4n. And it's got a whole lot to it. It has, you know, ports in the back for doing serious, like, microphone plugins. The microphones built in are actually quite nice. And I've been loving it. It's quite good as a mobile recording device if you're doing audio recordings. And we used this in Girona, or when we were in Spain for the Live This Week in Travel. We used it when Chris and I recorded last week in Austin, Texas. So had a lot of success with it so far, and hope to use it some more. So if you're doing podcasting or any remote recording on the road, it's not the smallest thing. I mean, it's bigger than an iPhone, but the sound quality and the features on it are quite nice. And it's smaller than the grenade that Chris travels with, and it gets caught in security.
You know, the funny thing is they have stopped checking that microphone. It's big metal. For those of you on video, it's a great big metal microphone. It's really not very portable. I used to have the H2. The one thing that double-check before you use it abroad, I guess you've used it in Girona, is when I first plugged in the H2 in Europe, I found that the adapter they had for it, the power adapter, did not handle 220 and fried it. So that came as a surprise in a day where almost all my expensive electronics is safe when I travel abroad.
I think there's a plug-in for it, but I was planning on just using batteries for everything, to be honest. So
that should work.
Yeah, that was the plan. Chris, you got something?
Yeah, when I was going up to Alaska, the trip that I mentioned recently, the uncruise in southeastern Alaska, I was approached by a company called Dream It Real. That's REEL.com. And they said, you know, we'd love to do something with your video. You send us your video and we turn it into something. And I went, yeah, that's not really going to work. I mean, how you weren't there. How would you know how to put this together? And I'm kind of dubious. And they said, well, let's give it a try. And so I sent them all my clips from Alaska, and they put together a really nice video. And this is a service now they do for consumers, too. Basically, if you go on your vacation and you want to have that 2-minute highlight reel of your vacation, you can use this service. I think it's like a little over $100 to have a really professional quality video put together with the music and the cutting and things like that. And if you look at I'll put a link in the show notes to the video that they did, but I'm more of a believer now. I honestly did not think this would work, and they came up with something like, I'm now actually pitching to people, you know, when I'm in your destination, I'll do a video and I'll go use these guys. And they are actually working with other, you know, travel bloggers and travel writers and such too as a service. If you don't have video skills, but you can take video, you know, as long as your camera work isn't horrific, which mine used to be, you can use this as a service to create professional quality videos.
Are you narrating anything too? Like,
no, that's one of the things that I was sort of thinking, that narration, and how could you possibly do it? But it's more just a montage, video. Doesn't have the narration that I was kind of thinking, and that was part of the reason why it worked. And I was thinking it wouldn't work, is I was thinking narration and they weren't. So.
Huh, that's interesting. I'll check that out.
Sherry, do you got something for us?
See, now, I wasn't prepared, but now I have 3 things for you, actually.
Overachiever.
I know. But they all have to do with what we were talking about. First, I'm going to plug my own website, because I just did a major redesign like you did, Gary. So what can I say? But other things we talked about, since we talked about the Nice project, there's for all the other ants out there, or what do they call us? Professional ants, no kids, Hanks. There is a website that sometimes I write for, but I do use. It's called SavvyAuntie.com. Or it's just what it sounds like. It's all for ants. So it's like, ideas of things to do with your nieces and nephews, etc. I write about travel there every so often. Yeah, so a lot of resources for ants. And then my final pick would be, we talked about Wrangel Island and the fact that it's not very well known. There is only one company that goes there, and that's heritageexpeditions.com. And so that's who I'm going with. And they not only do the Russia, Far East, but they do like sub-Antarctic islands, Western and South Pacific, Antarctica, so they're all over, but they're doing the more really remote places. But I think they're the only ones that have a permit to go to Wrangel.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Sherry, I didn't mention when you were talking about the Nice project. We actually did a Nice project where with one of my wife's nieces, where we sent her to China. She'd been studying Chinese. Ours had a little higher bar. So basically, my wife's mother came to live with us in 2010 and lived with us for 3 more years until she died at 94. It finally gave out. And during those 3 years, my wife's niece lived with us. And she would take care of her grandmother, even, for instance, while we were off traveling sometimes. And so we had done a trip to China right after she got here. And so when, as sort of to celebrate all that she had done, to thank her for it, we said, we will send you to China because you let us go. You basically let us carry on with our lives, and we couldn't have done this without you. So our bar is you might think about you could raise the bar a little.
Wow.
If you promise a certain number of visits in the old age home.
The old home. That's not a bad idea. Yeah. Well, and part of the thing about the Nice project is, my goal is to get other people to do stuff like this, because I'm a big believer in experiences over stuff. And I think, as aunts and uncles, that we can offer a lot more than just stuff lots of times. So.
I'm a big believer in stuff. I've been traveling this whole time, just getting stuff. That's the only reason I travel. It's because I found that my consumption patterns were greater than all the nearby stores. That's why. All right, then. Let's start to wrap things up. Chris, what's new on the Amateur Traveler this week?
We just did an episode on... Sorry, my alarm has gone off here, and I can't get it to shut up. We just did an episode with Danger Jill Robinson on New Orleans. It's actually the second episode of Amateur Traveler. We talked about New Orleans, but the show's been going on for so long that the first one was the second episode of the show, and it was before Katrina. And we are coming up on the 10-year anniversary of Katrina later next month.
I think you can start to do duplicates for a lot of
Yeah,
destinations.
I think it was okay.
Because
I don't think that both the people who were listening to Amateur Traveler at the time the first episode came out are necessarily even still listening. So,
I listen.
Sherry, where can people find you online?
They can find me at my website, ottsworld.com. I am currently writing about Costa Brava and the Pyrenees.
Oh. And as usual, you can find me at everything-everywhere.com. And I've also started posting my daily photos to 500 Pixels and Flickr. You may remember a site called Flickr, owned by a little company called Yahoo. I haven't posted a photo to Flickr in years, but they've made some changes. They've upgraded their pro service, so I figured, why not? I'd give it a try. So, yeah, you can follow me on Flickr and Friendster, if that's around too. I don't even know.
Are you updating your MySpace profile also?
They completely wiped that. I don't think they have profiles anymore. But I used to have a killer MySpace profile. I did. So until next time, get out of the house and take your nieces or nephews somewhere in the world.